The rain fell like bullets on the cracked pavement, but Maya Rodriguez barely felt it. Her daughter's small hand trembled in hers as they stood outside the boarded-up motel. The final door in a city full of locked ones now slammed in their faces. Sophia's backpack stuffed with everything they owned, pressed against Maya's hip, a constant reminder of how far they'd fallen. The eviction notice was still in her pocket, wrinkled and damp. 3 days. That's how long they'd been sleeping in her beaten Toyota, parked in different lots each night, praying no one would notice. But the car had finally died that morning, coughing its last breath in an alley she didn't recognize. Now they had nothing. Nowhere. No one. Sophia's voice cracked. Where are we going to sleep tonight? Maya opened her mouth, but the lie wouldn't come. She had no answer. The shelters were full. Her mother's house was gone, sold to pay for treatments that hadn't saved her. Friends had scattered when the bills started piling up. She was invisible in this city, just another black woman the world had learned to look past. That's when she heard the footsteps. Expensive shoes on wet concrete. A voice like smoke and steel. You look lost. 3 weeks earlier, Maya Rodriguez had perfected the art of invisible exhaustion. She moved through Benedetti's Italian restaurant with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd learned that speed meant survival. A dark brown skin glistening slightly under the warm overhead lights as she balanced 3 plates along her forearms. The lunch rush was brutal on Thursdays. Businessmen who tipped poorly and spoke to her like she was part of the furniture. A man snapped his fingers at her. We've been waiting 10 minutes for water. She'd filled his glass 4 minutes ago. She knew because she'd timed it. But Maya simply smiled, the smile that never reached her eyes, but kept her employed, and said, "Right away, sir." The truth was, she'd been awake for 22 hours straight. Her shift at the hospital cafeteria had run until 3 a.m. because Janet called in sick again. Then she'd driven across town to her second job at the dry cleaners, working the early morning shift from 4 to noon. Now she was here, and she'd be here until closing at 11 o'clock. Then home to Sophia, asleep at Mrs. Williams's apartment. The elderly neighbor who watched her daughter for 20 a day. Maya could barely afford. 1 more month, she told herself. 1 more month, and I'll have enough for the deposit on a better apartment. 1 more month, and Sophia can have her own room again. It was a lie she told herself to keep moving. Mama works real hard, Sophia had told her teacher last week. According to the note Maya had found in her backpack, she's always tired, but she says we're going to be okay. I believe her because mamas don't lie. Maya had cried in the bathroom for 5 minutes, then washed her face and gone to her next shift. She was clearing table 7 when she felt it. Can I start you with something to drink? Whiskey neat. The hibiki, if they have it. His voice was deep, accented, but clear and expensive, like everything else about him. I'll check with the bar. You're tired. Maya froze. Excuse me. You're exhausted. I can see it in your eyes. How many jobs do you work? The question was so unexpected, so intimate that Maya forgot to deflect. That's I don't think 3. He tilted his head slightly, studying her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. No, more than 3. You have a child. I can see the crayon stain on your sleeve you try to wash out, and you're working yourself to death for them. Something hot and defensive flared in Maya's chest. My personal life isn't sit down. I'm working. I'm a customer requesting service. Sit down. There was steel beneath the smooth words. Not a threat, but absolute certainty that he would be obeyed. Maya glanced toward Diego, who was watching with wide eyes, then carefully lowered herself into the booth across from this stranger who saw too much. What do you want? She asked quietly. Your name. Maya Rodriguez. Chinwe. He said it slowly like he was tasting it. Beautiful name. West African origin. Your parents chose. Well, my grandmother chose it. She was from Ghana. Was passed 5 years ago. Maya didn't know why she was telling him this. Didn't know why she hadn't walked away. And your daughter Sophia? She's 7. Father gone. The word came out harder than she intended. Left when she was 2. Hasn't sent a dime since. Chun Wei nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something he'd already suspected. You're drowning, Maya Rodriguez. Working multiple jobs, barely sleeping, sacrificing everything for a child who needs you alive more than she needs you exhausted. How long can you keep this up? As long as I have to. Maya lifted her chin. We're managing. No, you're surviving. There's a difference. What do you want from me? The question came out sharper now. edged with desperation she couldn't quite hide. "Why are you asking me these things?" He leaned back, that intense gaze never leaving her face. "I have a proposition for you." "I'm not interested in not that kind of proposition." His mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile. "I need someone I can trust in my home. Someone to manage my household, cooking, cleaning, ensuring things run smoothly. The pay is $15,000 a month. You'd live on the property. Your daughter would have her own room, access to private tutors if you wish, health insurance, security." Maya's heart hammered. $15,000 a month. That was more than she made in 6 months working 3 jobs. "Why me?" "Because you're desperate enough to say yes, but honest enough not to steal from me. Because you work hard. Because your daughter deserves better than watching her mother work herself into an early grave." He pulled a business card from his pocket, sliding it across the table. "Think about it. You have until tomorrow to decide. I don't even know you." "No, but I know you, Maya Rodriguez. I know you're 3 months behind on rent. I know your car needs repairs you can't afford. I know you go to bed hungry so your daughter can eat. I know you're one emergency away from complete disaster." He stood, straightening his suit jacket. "I'm offering you a lifeline. What you do with it is your choice." He walked away before she could respond. Leaving the business card and a 100 bill on the table, Maya stared at the card. Heavy card stock, embossed lettering, an address in Lincoln Park, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Chicago. Diego appeared at her elbow. "Did he just offer you a job?" "I think so." Maya's voice sounded distant in her own ears. Diego's expression was serious now. "Chinwei isn't he's not like other rich guys. There are stories, dark stories. If you work for him, I know." She tucked the card into her apron pocket. "I know exactly who he is." But as she finished her shift, as she drove to pick up Sophia from Mrs. Williams's apartment, as she opened her mail to find another past due notice and a letter from her landlord threatening eviction, Maya kept touching that card in her pocket. A room for Sophia. Security. She was drowning. He'd been right about that, and she was so tired of fighting the current alone. That night, after Sophia fell asleep, Maya sat at their tiny kitchen table and stared at Chunwei's business card. She thought about her daughter's worn shoes, the medication she couldn't afford for her chronic asthma, the way Sophia never complained, never asked for anything because she'd learned too young that mama couldn't afford extras. She thought about the way Chunwei had looked at her, not with pity, but with something else. Recognition, maybe like he understood what it meant to fight battles no one else could see. Maya picked up her phone. Her hands shook as she dialed the number on the card. He answered on the first ring. "I knew you'd call," Chinwei said. "Because you're a survivor, Maya Rodriguez. And survivors know when to accept help." A pause. "Come to the address on the card tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring your daughter. I want to meet her. Chinwei, if you're going to live in my home, we should be on a first-name basis." The line went dead. Maya sat in the darkness of her apartment, listening to Sophia breathe in the next room, and wondered if she'd just made a deal with the devil, or if the devil was the only one willing to help her. The house wasn't a house. It was a fortress disguised as luxury. Maya stood on the circular driveway. Sophia's hand gripped tightly in hers, staring up at the 3-story mansion that sprawled across a manicured estate. Wrought iron gates, security cameras every 20 feet, men in dark suits stationed at discreet positions around the property, guards trying and failing to look like groundskeepers. "Mama," Sophia whispered, her eyes huge. "Is this a palace?" "Something like that, baby." The massive front door opened before Maya could knock. A woman in her 50s, Asian with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes, smiled warmly. "You must be Maya. I'm Mrs. Liu. I manage the household stuff. Please come in." The interior was all clean lines and expensive simplicity. Marble floors, modern art that probably cost more than Maya's entire existence. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a garden that looked professionally maintained. Everything was pristine, cold, beautiful, and utterly lifeless. No photographs, no personal touches, nothing that suggested anyone actually lived here. "Chinwei is in his study," Mrs. Liu said. "He's expecting you. Sophia, would you like some juice and cookies while your mother talks with him?" Sophia looked up at Maya, seeking permission. Maya nodded, and her daughter followed Mrs. Liu down a hallway, glancing back twice to make sure her mother was still there. Maya walked toward the study alone, her worn sneakers silent on the marble. She felt shabby in her best jeans and cleanest blouse, painfully aware of how much she didn't belong in this world. Chenwei stood by the window, backlit by morning sun, hands in his pockets. He'd shed the suit jacket. His white dress shirt was rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms marked with muscle and a tattoo she couldn't quite make out. He looked younger in this light. Less corporate kingpin, more dangerous man playing dress-up. "You came," he said without turning. "You're paying me 15,000 a month to clean your house." "Of course I came." Now he turned, and his mouth curved. That almost smile again. "It's not just cleaning. It's managing the household. Overseeing the staff, making sure everything runs smoothly, cooking when I have deck guests." Maya crossed her arms. "You mean business associates, among others. Whatever this is between us." She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "I know it's complicated. I know there are 1,000 reasons why this is a terrible idea. But for once in my life, I want something just for me, not for survival, not out of desperation, because I choose it." Chenwei's hands framed her face like she was something precious. "You deserve better than me. Let me decide what I deserve." He kissed her again, slower, this time, deeper, full of promises neither could voice. When they finally pulled apart, Chenwei stood, offering his hand. "Come with me. To my room. I want to hold you. Just hold you. Fall asleep with you in my arms like a normal person instead of a man who can't remember the last time he wasn't alone." His expression was vulnerable. "Tell me no if you need to. I'll understand. But if you say yes." Maya took his hand standing. They walked upstairs together, hands clasped, two broken people seeking wholeness in each other. In his bedroom, which she'd cleaned a dozen times but never truly seen, Chenwei undressed to his undershirt in boxes, then held the covers open in invitation. Maya slipped out of her jeans down to her tank top and underwear, hyper-aware of her own vulnerability. But when she climbed into bed beside him, Chenwei simply wrapped his arms around her and pulled her against his chest. "Sleep," he murmured into her hair. "I'll keep watch." And for the first time in 7 years, Maya fell asleep, feeling safe, protected, treasured. Outside the window, dawn approached. And in that mansion full of expensive things and dangerous secrets, two people found something money couldn't buy and power couldn't create. They found each other. 3 days later, everything fell apart. Maya was in the kitchen preparing dinner when the front door slammed open, shouting, running feet. Then Chenwei's voice, cold and lethal. "Get them out now." Mrs. Liu appeared in the doorway, face pale. "Take Sophia and go to your rooms. Lock the door. Don't come out until I tell you it's safe." "What's happening?" "Please, Maya, trust me." Maya ran, found Sophia in the garden, grabbed her hand, pulled her upstairs. Sophia's questions. "Mama, what's wrong? Why are you scared?" Went unanswered as Maya locked them in her bedroom, barricading the door with furniture. Through the floor, she heard voices. Angry, threatening. Someone speaking Korean. Rapid fire and furious. Then Chenwei responding in the same language. Each word sharp as a blade. A gunshot. Sophia screamed. Maya pulled her daughter close, covering her ears, heart hammering so hard she thought it might explode. Silence. Terrible, heavy silence. Then footsteps on the stairs. Coming closer, Maya positioned herself between the door and Sophia, prepared to fight with everything she had if someone tried to hurt her daughter. Chenwei's voice, muffled through the door. "It's me. Open up." She moved the furniture with shaking hands, unlocked the door. Chenwei stood there, blood spattered across his white shirt, gun in one hand. Maya woke up in darkness, head pounding, zip ties cutting into her wrists. Beside her, Sophia was sobbing quietly, trying to be brave. "Mama, I'm here, baby. I'm right here. I want to go home." "I know, sweetheart. I know." Lights flooded the space, a warehouse, she realized, empty except for metal chairs and the 4 men who'd taken them, and one more, stepping out of the shadows. He was older, Korean, with gray streaked hair and eyes like ice. When he smiled, Maya's blood ran cold. "Rodriguez," he said, accent thick, but English clear. "Forgive the accommodations. This will be brief. I just need Chenwei to understand his place." "Who are you?" "Park Minjun. I run the Park family operations. Chenwei has been difficult lately, refusing alliances, eliminating my men, acting like he's above the old ways." He crouched in front of Sophia, who whimpered. "Pretty little thing. Such a shame. Don't you touch her." Maya lunged forward, chair and all, placing herself between him and Sophia. Brave mother. I respect that. Chenwei chose well. He stood, pulling out a phone. Let's see how fast he moves when motivated properly. The call lasted 30 seconds. Park Minjun spoke rapid Korean, then switched to English. 1 hour, Chenwei. The old rail yard on 87th Street. Come alone, or I start cutting pieces off your woman until you do. And the child? Well, children are so fragile. He hung up, smiled at Maya. He'll come. They always do for love. That's why love makes us weak. You're wrong, Maya said, voice steady despite her terror. Love doesn't make us weak. It reminds us what we're fighting for. Philosophical. Well, see how philosophical you are in an hour if Chenwei disappoints me. Chenwei arrived in 45 minutes. He walked into that warehouse alone, hands raised. No visible weapons, but everything about him radiated lethal intent. Let them go, he said in Korean. This is between us. You think you can demand terms? Park Minjun laughed. You're outnumbered, outgunned. Your woman and the child will die if I give the word. Then give it. Chenwei's voice was dead calm. And watch what happens next. You're bluffing. Chenwei's smile was a predator baring teeth. You made a mistake, Minjun. You threatened what's mine. Now your entire organization is burning. Your warehouse is raided by federal agents. Anonymous tip untraceable. Your account's frozen. Your lieutenants. Half are dead. The other half are talking to prosecutors for immunity. Park Minjun's face went pale. You're lying. Check your phone. I'll wait. The older man pulled out his phone, scrolling frantically. His expression went from disbelief to rage. You destroyed my family. You touched mine. What did you expect? Chenwei took a step forward. I gave you a choice. Stay in your lane. Respect boundaries. You chose war. Now you lose. I still have them. Park grabbed Sophia, pressing a gun to her head. One move, and the shot came from nowhere. Park Minjun dropped. Bullet hole in his forehead. Her voice came out softer than she intended. He looked up sharply, and for a moment she saw something roar in his expression, pain, exhaustion, a weariness that matched her own. Then his mask slammed back into place. You should be asleep. Couldn't sleep. I was making tea. Would you like some? He stared at her for a long moment. Then quietly, yes, thank you. Maya brought him tea in a mug, not the fine china she'd used for guests. Something about the late hour, the darkness, the blood on his hands. It called for comfort, not formality. Chenwei took the mug, their fingers brushing. He didn't pull away. Bad night? Maya asked, sitting in the chair across from him because standing felt wrong. You could say that. He sipped the tea. You made this with honey and ginger. My grandmother's recipe helps when the world feels too heavy. Smart woman. Your grandmother. She raised me after my parents died. Taught me that strength isn't about never falling down. It's about getting up every single time. Maya studied him in the dim light. You should clean those knuckles. They'll get infected. I've had worse. I'm sure you have. Doesn't mean you should ignore it. Before she could think better of it, Maya stood and fetched the first aid kit from the kitchen. When she returned, Chenwei was still sitting there watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Give me your hand, she said quietly. Maya, you pay me to take care of your household. You're part of that household. Give me your hand. He extended his right hand, knuckles split and roar. Maya cleaned the wounds carefully, aware of how intimate this was, kneeling between his spread knees, holding his hand in both of hers, close enough to smell his cologne and the copper tang of blood. You don't have to do this, Chenwei said, his voice low. I know, but nobody should have to patch themselves up alone. She applied antiseptic, feeling him tense, but not pull away. My grandmother used to say, that's when you know you've lost your way. When you stop letting people help you. Your grandmother sounds like she would have disapproved of me probably. But she also believed everyone deserved kindness, even people who'd done terrible things. Maya wrapped his knuckles in gauze, her fingers gentle. She said, cruelty hardens people, but kindness reminds them they're human. And what do you believe? Maya met his eyes. I believe you're more than what you do for a living. I believe you hired me because somewhere under all this power and control, you remember what it's like to need help and not have it. And I believe, she hesitated. I believe you're lonely. The silence stretched between them, heavy with things neither could say. Finally, Chenwei spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. You see, too much, Maya Rodriguez, comes with the survival territory. You learn to read people when your life depends on knowing who to trust. And do you trust me? I'm working on it. Let me spend the rest of my life returning the favor. Maya kissed him before the judge finished, breaking protocol, making everyone laugh again. The reception was quiet. Dinner, champagne, Sophia running around the garden with Mrs. Liu's grandchildren, who'd been invited for the occasion. But as night fell and guests departed, Chunwei found Maya on the garden bench where they'd first kissed. "Chunwei," he said, sitting beside her. "How does it feel? Surreal, perfect, terrifying." She leaned into him. "Like everything good, I never thought I'd have this either. A wife, a family, something worth protecting beyond power and territory." He tilted her face toward his. "You've changed everything, Maya. You changed everything first. You saw a desperate woman and her daughter and offered salvation when no one else would. You gave us a life, and you gave me a reason to live it." Later that night, in his bedroom, their bedroom now, they made love for the first time, slow and careful, learning each other's bodies, mapping scars and soft places. When Chunwei moved inside her, when Maya arched beneath him, it wasn't just physical. It was covenant promise forever. Afterwards, lying tangled together, Chunwei traced patterns on her shoulder. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "The Park family is finished, but there will be others. There will always be threats. I can't promise you a peaceful life, Maya. I can only promise to fight for you with everything I have. And I'm not naive enough to think danger is gone forever. But we're stronger together than apart." She turned to face him. "We'll face whatever comes as a family. You, me, Sophia, that's our strength. What did I do to deserve you? Opened your heart when the world told you to stay closed. You chose love when violence would have been easier. You let us in." She kissed him. "That's what you did. You chose us." A knock on the door interrupted them. Sophia's small voice. "Mama, Mr. Chunwei, can I come in?" Chunwei pulled on pants while Maya wrapped herself in his shirt. "Come in, baby." Sophia shuffled in, clutching her favorite stuffed bear. "I had a bad dream about the bad men." Maya's heart broke. "Oh, sweetheart. Can I sleep with you guys, please? I'll be really quiet." Chunwei answered before Maya could. "Of course you can. Come here, Sophia." He lifted her into the bed, tucking her between them. Sophia sighed, immediately relaxing. She asked sleepily, "Yes, can I call you Dad? Since you married Mama." Chunwei went completely still. Maya saw tears well in his eyes. The first time she'd seen him actually cry. Aya's voice broke. "I would be honored, Sophia. So honored. Good night, Dad. Good night, daughter." Sophia fell asleep within minutes, safe between her parents. Maya reached across her daughter, taking Chunwei's hand. "Dad," she mouthed. He smiled, radiant despite the tears. "Family," he mouthed back. "They fell asleep like that. How did I get so fortunate? You opened your door when a desperate woman needed help. You saw us. Really saw us. Everything else follows from that moment of compassion." Across the garden, Sophia spotted them and came running. "Mama, Dad, watch what I can do." She demonstrated a cartwheel, lopsided, but enthusiastic. They applauded like she'd performed magic. "That was amazing, Sophia." Chunwei said seriously. "Can we have hot chocolate with marshmallows?" "Of course. Go inside and ask Mrs. Liu. We'll be right there." Sophia ran off. Energy boundless. Chunwei watched her go, expression soft. "A year ago, I was a man who had everything and nothing. Power without purpose, wealth without meaning. Then you walked into my restaurant, exhausted and desperate and fighting for your daughter, and everything changed." He turned back to Maya. "You whispered, 'We have nowhere to go.' And I realized I could give you somewhere. Not just shelter, home, family, love. And you did. You gave us everything." He kissed her forehead. "You gave me everything. You taught me that strength isn't about control. It's about vulnerability. That family isn't a weakness. It's the greatest strength of all. That love doesn't make us soft. It makes us worth saving." They stood together in the golden afternoon light, watching their daughter play, feeling new life grow between them, building something neither had thought possible. Chunwei had been raised to be a monster, to take and control and dominate. But Maya had shown him another way, had reminded him that beneath the violence and power was a man capable of tenderness, of sacrifice, of love so fierce it transformed darkness into light. "Whatever comes next," Maya said quietly, "we face it together." Chunwei agreed. "Always together." Inside, Mrs. Liu was making hot chocolate. Sophia was setting the table, chattering about her day. The house that had once been cold and empty now rang with laughter and life. And two people who'd been lost, a single mother fighting impossible odds, and a crime lord who'd forgotten how to be human, found their way home. Not to a place, but to each other. That night, after Sophia was asleep and the house was quiet, Chunwei and Maya stood on their bedroom balcony, watching the city lights. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Choosing this life, choosing me." "Not once. You every day, I wake up terrified I'll lose you. Lose this. But I've never regretted it. You're the best decision I ever made. We're the best decision we ever made." Maya corrected. "This isn't you saving me or me saving you. It's us choosing each other. Every single day." He pulled her close, and they stood there wrapped in each other until the stars came out. Somewhere in the city, danger still lurked. Enemies still plotted. The underworld never rested. But in that moment, in that house, a family forged in crisis, strengthened by love, bound by choice, stood together against the darkness. And the darkness, for once, retreated. Because some things are stronger than fear, stronger than violence, stronger than the weight of the world. Love, family, the fierce determination of people who refuse to let their pasts define their futures. That's what Chinwei and Maya Rodriguez built together. Not an empire, a home. And it was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Years passed, measured not in months, but in milestones. Sophia grew into a confident teenager, fluent in Mandarin and English, her art hanging in galleries, her laugh still filling the house with joy. She never forgot the hard times, but they shaped her into someone who understood both struggle and strength. The son they'd expected turned out to be twins. Boys who had Chunwei's eyes and Maya's smile, chaos incarnate, but deeply loved. Chunwei transitioned slowly out of the criminal underworld, using his power to legitimize his businesses, becoming, ironically, one of Chicago's most influential philanthropists. The man who'd once ruled through fear now channeled that strength into building community centers, funding schools, creating opportunities for people like Maya had been. The violence never completely disappeared. That would have been naive, but it touched them less as years passed. As Chunwei's reputation shifted from dangerous to untouchable, on their 10th anniversary, Chunwei took Maya back to Benedetti's Italian restaurant, the place where they'd first met. It was under new management now, but the corner booth remained. "Do you remember?" he asked, sliding into that same seat. "I remember a man who saw past my exhaustion to my strength, who offered me salvation when I'd given up on miracles." Maya took his hand across the table. "I remember falling in love before I even knew it was happening. I knew the moment I saw you. Something in me recognized something in you. Survivor calling to survivor. Fighter to fighter." He lifted her hand to his lips. "You saved my life that day, Maya. Not just by accepting my offer, by reminding me I was human, and you saved mine. You gave us a home when we had nowhere to go." Their eyes met across the table, and for a moment they were back in that first encounter. The exhausted single mother and the lonely crime lord. Two people drowning in their separate ways. Now they were husband and wife, parents, partners, survivors who'd found more than shelter. They'd found love. "You do now," Maya said softly, recalling that moment in the rain when she'd whispered her desperation and he'd offered his protection. "I do," Chinwei agreed. "I always will. You and our children, my family, my purpose, my redemption, our redemption," Maya corrected. "We saved each other, Chinwei. It saves us from ourselves." They ordered dinner. Simple pasta, nothing expensive, and talked about their children, their plans, their dreams, like normal people, like they weren't built from violence and desperation. Because in the end, that's what they'd become, normal, a family. And sometimes that was the greatest triumph of all. Back home, Sophia was watching her brothers, teaching them to draw, laughing at their childish jokes. When her parents walked in, she looked up and smiled. "Good date." "The best," Maya said, kissing her daughter's head. "You guys are disgustingly in love," Sophia teased. "Always have been," Chunwei replied, pulling both his wife and daughter into a hug. "Always will be." The twins tackled their father's legs, demanding attention, and chaos erupted. The good kind, the kind that meant life and laughter and love. Maya watched her family, her heart full to bursting, and thought about that rainy night when she'd stood outside a boarded-up motel with nowhere to go. She'd whispered her desperation into the storm, and a man with blood on his hands and loneliness in his heart had answered, "You do now." 3 words that changed everything. 3 words that built her family. 3 words that proved love could bloom anywhere, even in the darkest places between the most unlikely people. Maya Rodriguez Chun fell asleep that night, wrapped in her husband's arms, children breathing softly down the hall, grateful for every struggle that led her to this moment. Because sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about perfection. They're about 2 broken people choosing to heal together, choosing to fight for each other, choosing every day to stay. And that choice repeated again and again across years, and challenges became there forever. 5 years had passed since that rainy night when Maya whispered her desperation into the storm. The mansion that had once felt like a fortress now hummed with the warmth of family life. Sophia, now 12, had grown into a confident young woman who moved effortlessly between worlds. She spoke fluent Mandarin with Chun Wei's business associates, helped Maya prepare traditional Puerto Rican dishes for family dinners, and had her artwork displayed in the Chicago Cultural Center's youth exhibition. Maya stood at the kitchen window, watching Sophia teach her twin brothers, Marcus and Miguel, how to tend the garden misses. Lou had helped them plant. The boys, now 3, were perfect combinations of their parents, with Chun Wei's intensity and Maya's compassionate heart. Marcus was methodical, carefully placing each seed in perfectly spaced rows, while Miguel scattered his with enthusiastic abandon, trusting that somehow they would grow. The transformation in Chun Wei had been gradual but profound. The man who once ruled through fear now channeled that same intensity into building something lasting. The Chun Wei Foundation had established community centers in underserved neighborhoods across Chicago, providing after-school programs, job training, and scholarships for single mothers pursuing education. Maya had discovered her own strength in running the foundation's family services division, using her experience to help others navigate impossible choices. But the past never stayed buried for long in their world. Maya was reviewing applications for the foundation's emergency assistance program when Mrs. Liu knocked softly on her office door. "Mrs. Rodriguez," she said quietly, "Chun Wei needs to see you." Immediately, something in Mrs. Liu's tone made Maya's stomach tighten. She found Chun Wei in his study, standing behind his desk with his phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Mandarin in clipped, dangerous tones. When he saw her, he ended the call abruptly. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "The Yamamoto family from San Francisco. They're making moves into Chicago territory. Traditional old school. They see my transition to legitimate business as weakness." Maya settled into the chair across from his desk, the same chair where she'd made the choice to trust him all those years ago. "What kind of moves?" "They've been approaching my former associates, offering better terms for protection services, drug distribution, money laundering. Some of my people are wavering." Chun Wei's jaw tightened. "But that's not the real problem. They've been asking questions about you. About the children." The words hit Maya like ice water. "How specific?" "Names, ages, where Sophia goes to school, the boys' daycare schedule." Chun Wei came around the desk, kneeling beside her chair. "They're testing boundaries, seeing if I'll react. If I show any vulnerability, any weakness they can exploit." Maya took his hands in hers, feeling the familiar calluses from his workout routines, the scars from old fights. "What do we do?" "I handle it. The way I should have handled the Park family from the beginning. Completely. Permanently." The old Chun Wei was surfacing, the one who solved problems with violence and fear. Maya had seen glimpses of him over the years when threats emerged, but this felt different. More final. "There might be another way," she said carefully. "We could take the children and go somewhere safe for a while. Let you handle this without worrying about us." Chun Wei's hands tightened on hers. "No. Running makes us look weak, confirms their suspicions that I've gone soft. Besides, this is our home. Our life. I won't let anyone drive us from it. Then we face it together. Like we always have." "Maya, this isn't like the Park situation. The Yamamotos are larger, better connected. They have resources I can't match in a straight fight. Then we don't fight straight." Maya surprised herself with her own certainty. "You've taught me that power comes in many forms. Fear is one, but respect is another. Loyalty. Community. You've built something here that goes beyond the old ways." Wei studied her face. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that the man who whispered to a desperate woman in the rain that she had somewhere to go isn't the same man who rules through violence. I'm thinking that 5 years of building community centers and funding schools means you have allies the Yamamotos can't see or understand. That night, after they'd tucked the boys into bed and Sophia had finished her homework, Maya and Wei sat in their bedroom planning a different kind of war. Instead of meeting violence with violence, they would leverage the network Wei had built through legitimate means. The next morning, Wei began making calls, not to enforcers or muscle, but to city council members whose campaigns he'd supported, to community leaders who'd benefited from foundation programs, to business owners whose neighborhoods had been revitalized through his investments. By afternoon, word was spreading through Chicago's power structure that someone was threatening one of their most valued philanthropists. Maya took a different approach. She reached out to the women's network she'd built through the foundation. Single mothers, grandmothers raising grandchildren, small business owners who'd received microloans. Within hours, a web of eyes and ears was watching for anything unusual in the neighborhoods where the Yamamotos might try to establish footholds. Sophia, mature beyond her years, understood enough to know her family was in danger. Instead of being frightened, she became fiercely protective of her little brothers, never letting them out of her sight during their carefully supervised outings. The confrontation came sooner than expected. Maya was at the foundation office, reviewing security footage from community centers that had reported suspicious activity, when her phone rang. Mrs. Rodriguez, an unfamiliar voice said, "This is Detective Morrison, CPD. Your husband asked me to call. We have a situation at Millennium Park. You should come immediately." Maya's hands shook as she dialed Wei's number. It went straight to voicemail. She found him at the park's crown fountain, standing with Detective Morrison and 2 other officers Maya didn't recognize. Wei looked calm, almost relaxed, but Maya had learned to read the subtle signs of his controlled fury. "What happened?" she asked, taking his arm. Wei nodded toward a black sedan parked nearby. 3 representatives from the Yamamoto family. They wanted to discuss terms for my surrender of Chicago operations. They were quite insistent. Detective Morrison, a woman in her 40s with graying hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward. "Mr. Wei contacted us this morning about potential threats to his family. When these gentlemen arrived uninvited at his place of business, making what could be construed as threats, we were already positioned to observe." Maya looked between them, understanding dawning. "You set this up. Sometimes the best way to end a war is to demonstrate that you're not fighting alone," Wei said quietly. The Yamamotos came to Chicago thinking they were dealing with an isolated criminal who'd lost his edge. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by police, photographed by journalists, and documented making threats against a prominent philanthropist and his family. The lead Yamamoto representative, a thin man with steel-gray hair, was arguing with another detective near their sedan. Maya could see him gesturing angrily, clearly frustrated that what should have been a simple intimidation had become a public relations disaster. "Their presence in Chicago is now a matter of public record," Detective Morrison explained. "Any harm that comes to you or your family will point directly back to them. They're smart enough to know that kind of heat isn't worth whatever they hope to gain here." As they watched, the Yamamoto sedan pulled away from the curb, leaving rubber on the asphalt in their haste to depart. "Is it over?" Maya asked. Wei wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "This part is. There will always be something else, someone else who thinks they can take what we've built. But today we proved that we're not the same people we were 5 years ago. We have resources they can't understand or fight against." That evening, the family gathered for dinner as usual. Sophia helped serve Mrs. Liu's famous dumplings while the twins entertained everyone with their attempts to use chopsticks. To an outside observer, it would have looked like any normal family meal. But Maya caught Wei's eye across the table and saw the deep satisfaction there. Not the cold triumph of violence, but the warm victory of having protected his family through wisdom rather than force. Later that night, after the children were asleep, they stood on their bedroom balcony overlooking the city lights. Chicago spread before them like a sea of possibilities, no longer a place where they survived, but where they truly lived. "Do you think Sophia understands how much her life has changed?" Maya asked. Wei considered this. "I think she understands that she's safe, loved, and has opportunities she never would have had before." But I also think she remembers where she came from. That makes her strong. And the boys, they'll grow up thinking all of this is normal. Maybe that's the point. Chunwei pulled her closer. They'll never know what it's like to go to bed hungry or wonder if tomorrow will be the day everything falls apart. They'll take security for granted, expect to be loved unconditionally, assume that problems can be solved through intelligence and community rather than violence. Maya leaned into his warmth, thinking about the path that had brought them here. From that rainy night when she'd had nowhere to go, to building a life that was more stable and loving than anything she'd dared to imagine. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd been too proud to call you that night, she said. Chunwei was quiet for a long moment. I would have found you anyway. I think I was already looking for you, even before I knew what I was looking for. Someone who could remind me what it felt like to be human. They stood there until the city settled into its late-night rhythm. Two people who'd found their way home not just to a place, but to each other. The threats would come and go, as they always did in their world, but the foundation they'd built was stronger than fear. Years later, Sophia would graduate valedictorian from the University of Chicago, delivering a speech about the power of second chances and the families we choose for ourselves. Marcus would become a doctor, dedicating his life to serving communities like the one his mother had escaped. Miguel would follow his father into business, but with a focus on social impact investing that would revolutionize how wealth was used to build rather than destroy. But that night, they were simply a family. Maya Rodriguez Chun and Chun Wei, who had whispered to each other across the darkness of their separate desperation and answered with the same three words that had changed everything. You do now. They always would. In the end, love had not made them weak. It had made them unstoppable. What did you think of Maya and Chunwei's story? Could you feel the chemistry between them? Did the way they handled the Yamamoto threat give you chills? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you love this story of a crime boss falling for the woman who saw past his dangerous reputation, smash that like button and subscribe for more intense romance stories every week. Which moment was your favorite? When Chunwei canceled his old ways to defend Maya, the way they protected their family through community instead of violence, their first kiss in his penthouse, or the epilogue surprise? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more crime boss romance, billionaire love stories, or tales of unexpected connections, hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Remember, true love doesn't care about social status, background, or past mistakes. It sees the heart beneath everything else. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.